All right, hey everybody, welcome back. I'm hoping we can wrap this one up, and this will be the final part of the series here. So let me just remind everybody that's just kind of coming here. Maybe if some people are just coming in, straggling off the streets here and finally hitting some of these videos. These are all about me sharing my raw thoughts. These come to me, I jam them on paper. They're usually not even grammatically correct. That's how fast I try to get these down. And I go through them with you guys again, fresh. I don't polish these. These aren't taken through some AI generator. They're not buffed up. They're not fluffy. I just give you what I was thinking about. Sometimes they're, really good. Sometimes they're, they need some work. I'm going to expand on them and talk about where it came from and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just helping people really slow down, think with me, have a buddy to do that, and learn reflection and perspective. It's been such a key in my life for so many different things. So I'm allowing you guys to kind of be with me, be with somebody present that has taken many years to get to a place where I do it very openly. I even criticize my own thoughts. Most people don't even think about their own thoughts, right? They just happen. Oh, okay, I guess, you know what I mean? And you don't think much about it. Even intrusive thoughts, I'm not going to give it much thought. Move it by, but I capture all that and we talk about it. So it's a skill I'm really trying to help other people do, but also you get to hear somebody else's raw thoughts, and I've been developing these for a long time. So they're pretty good. At least I think they are worth at least sharing and letting you guys kind of in on it. Okay, let's get started. All right, where are we at? I think ego is past and future management. I'll elaborate. I know that's, whoa, what is he talking about? We call the future part intuition or creative planning. I think that's just a different way that we call future. And the past, that's remembering, recalling, anything else you want to put a label on it. These are just alternative ways of seeing what we all know in different words, different disciplines. But let's talk about it though. I think the ego is us getting stuck in future management, creative planning, goal setting, thinking about the future. How do we want to approach that meeting on next Wednesday? Future management, which takes you out of the present, for the record. Now, I also think our egos think about what's already happened behind us. Again, taking you out of the present moment. It's a spiritual lesson there, but I think I'm trying to connect it with the ego and what we think about. Okay? A lot of us get stuck in our ego thought. Future planning and past learning lessons, experiencing from it, trying to get over stuff, heal from it, learn from it, whatever. But that separates you. Past, future, present. But there's this little spot in between here, like right now, that is, I think, more spiritual. That's just the word I'm going to put on it. There's probably a bunch of different ways that you can call that. Just like I kind of said, future planning, okay, or goal setting. Those are all different disciplines, right? One's kind of more financial, one's maybe a little bit more creative planning or just life planning, or we can call it intuition. Right now we're talking more spiritual, okay? That gut feeling of what's going to happen next and seeing it in our heads, or at least something that kind of gives us a sign or a symbol that, hey, be prepared, or I wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like intuition. So I think that takes us out of the present moment. And I think we need to be in the present moment more, experiencing life. That doesn't mean that those faculties aren't good things to use. In fact, for you to not remember anything, or for you to not even think about the future, it's impossible. You're supposed to. But a lot of us, I think, get stuck in those way more than we should be on a day-to-day basis. We get stuck in those thinking. I don't even think we realize it. We get pulled out of it for like a second or two when somebody wants to talk with us, but then right back to whatever we were thinking about or whatever we were planning for. So that's what I'm talking about. And I think that that's kind of a cool one. Maybe I want to elaborate on that more in the future. But for now, let's stick with that. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Access to your own brain and thoughts. Sometimes we shut the door. Shut the door to certain things, I guess. And we kind of talked about this one, but this is a different approach, I guess, different perspective. Whether a teacher told us that or we do, the results are the same. We get stuck sometimes. It's like a car that wants to shift in or out of gear, but it's jammed. All right, let's talk about that. I think that one came to me last night, if I'm not mistaken. I think I woke up in the middle of the night to capture that one. Let me see that one more time, because I'm thinking about it. Okay, so we did talk about this one a little bit. What I'm really getting at, so I won't go into too much detail. You'll have to go back to the beginning series. I think it was on either the first or second one of this series, where we closed the door on fears, if I'm not mistaken. I don't even remember which one that one was, to be honest with you. It could have even been the third one. That's not helpful at all. Sorry. Maybe watch the whole series again. Just saying. We close the door sometimes, or somebody else closes it for us. And I think that that's kind of a bad thing. I gotta look at this one more time. Sorry. Yeah. And this ties right into what I had already said, I think. And I just said it in a different way. It's not fears anymore. It's just basically what I said out of that. Okay. So sometimes we have doors closed on us that we don't realize are closed. And that's limiting beliefs again. And I'm kind of giving you guys, I guess, the mechanism. I'm trying to kind of unlock that key for you guys to realize how this kind of stuff happens, and that being a human being, when we have a door shut on us, it'll be fresh in our minds when it happens. We'll be able to recall it after the first 3-4 days pretty clearly. But then life keeps happening. New things happen. You know, you're talking to friends, something traumatic happens in the news, social media, and we get distracted. And slowly over time, we forget about that thing that we were like, hey, I really need to come back to that. My teacher told me, hey, you can't look at this. But like, you start thinking, well, why? You know what I mean? And then you kind of close that door, and then it stays closed. And you may never go seeking that answer again, but your mind still has a locked door somewhere that's keeping you from figuring things out, from you moving forward, from you growing intellectually, spiritually, creatively. And that could be really detrimental. So just keep that in mind. We all have them. It's not to say that once those doors get locked and you've forgotten about it after all those years, that you can't find it and unlock it, or maybe some other experience in real time is similar and it reminds you. A lot of these lessons circle ourselves and remind us of something. Sometimes we just kind of forget where it started. And that could be the tricky part sometimes. We don't all necessarily need that, but it helps. It does help to remember and recall where you got lost, where you got stuck. It just helps you solve the problem cleaner. It doesn't mean you can't heal or get past it anyways, but it usually means, you need to convince yourself that you need to make a new belief. And so it might conflict with an older one or a closed door that you had. So just keep that in mind. Okay. I think we're doing good here on time, which is good. Okay. Here's something for creators, thinkers, builders, healers, and conscious people struggle with. Here's what I've learned moving through it. Asking better, educated questions will unlock doors for you didn't even know existed. Yes. I don't even know if I need to elaborate on that, but I will. One of the best things that I've ever learned and turned into a belief or a truth for me, so that I can kind of keep reusing this, because just hearing it is going to sound good and you'll be like, yeah, that makes sense, but until you actually make it a habit to do it and to learn, it's like a skill, really, and to practice it and do it all the time, and to make it kind of like a part of who you are and what you bring to any table that you come to. It's asking better questions. And the more you follow threads, specific threads, in like a discipline, like let's say spirituality, for instance, your first questions, they're going to be really simple. But the more you kind of keep following it, get those answers kind of answered, maybe you don't get full answers, they usually help you create another question to be more exact and more precise about what it is you're trying to figure out. Sometimes it even splits, right? That can happen too. So when you start kind of following those disciplines and those threads, you're going to keep making more and more better questions as you go. And that's important, because when you decide to specialize in something, or you decide if you want to follow a creative pursuit, you're going to get to that point where you need to kind of keep asking better and better and better questions and getting better and better and better answers. More specific, more niche. And that's important to understand, that you need to do that. You know, don't just figure it out on your own. I'm telling you, it's one of the best things, no matter what you're doing. Even if you're in a corporate ladder, eventually you want to start asking better questions, more precise questions, more educated questions. You know, but that should not stop you from getting started. It's going to be messy. It's going to be rocky at first. It's supposed to be. And it's going to be like that with anything that you're not that familiar with, or that you haven't talked about or questioned. So expect that. That's the entrance price, okay? And that's a small price, right? You know, asking questions that you're a little nervous to ask because you've never asked them before, that's the entrance price. That's, you know, when you look at it that way, that's minor. You know what I mean? That'll be behind you within the first 10 minutes after you've already asked the questions. You know what I mean? Okay, let's move on. You know where happiness comes from? Doing the things you say you'll do. Truth. Now here's a kind of a twist on that, to help some people make this more practical for you, I guess, is that as you say you're going to do things, you should be able to kind of sift through the things that you're not going to do. Okay? I'm not saying you need to make a list of things you say you're going to do and then make sure that you get them all done. Okay? Shame on you for not getting them all done. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's a good idea to do that, but you should keep filtering. You know, if you get some on that list of yours and you've switched it over to a new list, okay, got this done, okay, I did do all these things that I said I was going to do, and then you kind of bring it over to it, and whether or not that's a weekly plan, a monthly plan, maybe your 10-year plan, and that involves a house and a car and a family, whatever you want to do it could be micro scaling it could be macro scaling it, whatever. But the key is that as you keep doing that, you should be able to filter that down into realizing that some of that stuff on there that you keep saying, oh, I'm going to do it, I'll do it next time, you need to either change that goal to make it something that you will get done, because you're going to have practice and you're going to know what you're capable of, and you know what you actually want to commit to, and maybe that even means consolidating it or integrating it into other ones in some way, or taking it off the list for a while, putting it on some backlist of things that you might get to. But the key here is that eventually you should have a list of things that you're not only capable of doing, but you're doing. That can include diet too. Do you know what I'm saying? We all want a better diet, but you got to do that, right? You got to actually do that to be happy. Otherwise, you're holding yourself back from happiness, right? I really need to do that diet. Well, here I am eating this ice cream and cheeseburger again. doing the things that I said I wasn't going to do. And I'm just giving you one small example. These all add up and take away from your happiness when you're not doing the things that you say you're going to do. So keep that in mind. And it's even okay to be like, oh, I love eating cheeseburgers and ice cream. Well, then your diet should not be on that list. Do you see what I'm saying? It's up to you how you want to live your life and what happiness looks like for you. So refine your list, refine your truths, refine your beliefs. Happiness is in that. Happiness is in being imperfect. But knowing, actively knowing what you want to do and how you want to commit to that, that's the key. Your happiness is in doing the things that you'll say you'll do. Within reason, within practical, what you can actually do in reality. Like if you say tomorrow you want to be an NBA superstar, is that realistic? Probably not. Maybe if you made it a 10-year plan and you fully committed to it and you were serious about it, maybe. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be unrealistic on the things that you put down, or else it's not realistic. You can't possibly do it. So don't forget, there is some flexibility you need to do. You need to change your plans. Maybe you said, hey, I was going to be famous tomorrow, and after a week you didn't become famous, and you got to look at that list again, and you got to be like, well, all right, maybe I'll need to move this one back another month at least. And then after that month comes and you're still not famous, and you got to be like, well, maybe I wasn't too realistic. Maybe it needs to be more like a 5-year plan. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's the reality of making lists that even I struggled with, You wanted to make this perfect list through theory. You've never done it before. And you think that you're going to have the perfect plan written out before you even start executing it. That doesn't happen. I have found myself burning out and failing a lot because of that, because of not understanding that you need to be at least a little bit flexible, okay? This isn't corporate world. This is your life. So you're allowed to, make mistakes, not do it right, and figure that out. That's a part of it. Okay. I think this is the last one. What do we got? So, we're right on time. Nice. Love, creativity, life, reality, they don't have structure or boundaries unless you give them to them. We'll talk about that. That's what real freedom is all about. You need to give structure on things or it will keep expanding. Even your own consciousness. And I talked about that a little bit. But it's true. Kind of like what I was talking about with that root system. In this series that we're talking about, I talked about, I think on the first episode, I'm not sure, first or second. But your consciousness with different disciplines and interests turns into a huge root system. Every thread that you follow, everything you care about, everything you enjoy learning about, or taking some risks and being bold and, going to see the world or whatever, that's going to keep expanding your consciousness. And that's what real unrestrained freedom feels like. And I'm putting that into kind of one thing that maybe you guys can understand. However, you can apply this to a lot of different things, creative pursuits, anything that you use your mind for to think about. You can just keep following threads all the way through, keep thinking about things, thinking about what else that looks like from experience you've had, how you've negotiated the world and navigated through it and all that kind of stuff. It keeps expanding until you put limits. And I don't recommend that you do that for a long time. Listen to some of the limits that are out there. A lot of different things try to limit your ability to think outside the box, give you some type of structure. But I really believe that you need to give yourself that structure, okay? A lot of other people, a lot of other institutions, a lot of other groups, etc., educational places, teachers, preachers, etc., they're going to try to help you create that structure, but some of them will force you to, this is the way it's supposed to be, and give you that box. And it's going to be hard for you to get outside of that box when that happens. So understand the limits. We all desire freedom. Freedom of thought. Freedom to do what we want out here, within reason. But there should be some structure on that, or else it just keeps expanding. Think about your spirit or your consciousness. It is while it's here, while you're alive, it is kind of confined to our senses, what we can see, what we can smell, what we can feel, how we can move our body parts and experience the world, sensations, stimuli. But it's confined to the structure of the body and the sensations that you can get, and whatever's beyond that too, maybe some spirituality, but it's unseen to us, okay? Maybe we can feel it, right? We have some suspicion. But what I'm saying is there is some structure here. So even your consciousness, it has its own limitations to an extent, okay? But what I'm trying to help you understand is that you do need some restraint to the freedom. You need it. Imagine if you didn't have a body, your consciousness would just keep expanding. It wouldn't have anything to look through. It would just be everywhere, all at once, all at the same time. But how would it see anything? It needs something to look through. It needs something to feel. So you see what I'm saying? Like, there needs to be, your body is kind of like the outline, a framework or a structure that gives your consciousness a home. That's the same with creative thought. That's the same with anything. It wants to expand. So even freedom needs some type of a limitation. That's really what I'm getting at. But let me get kind of more into that, I guess, right? Yeah, let me talk about how that connects with love. Love needs boundaries too. Otherwise, you just start burning everything, right? Have you ever been in that infatuation stage and you try to hang on to that forever? You can't. And then you try to get back to it and everything like that. Even love needs its own boundaries on it, so you don't burn the people around you, or you're not trying to like cling to things that need to grow and be more fluid and happen. You know, we want to stick to the version of ourselves that, you know, we met that person. You know, they liked us for who they were when they met us at that exact moment in time. Okay? But life happens. You change, they change, you grow, they grow. You're never going to remain at that exact peak moment in your life where you met that person. It's going to change. Hopefully not much, but, you know, eventually, over a long period of time, probably will change a lot. So keep that in mind. Even boundaries there. Understanding that. And, you know, having your own limits in a relationship. Hey, I didn't like, you know, this didn't make me happy. And, you know, but at the same time, I'm willing to, I know that this doesn't make you happy, so we can compromise here, that kind of stuff. You hear what I'm saying? But there needs to be boundaries on creativity, on life, on reality. There needs to be some structure. But what I'm suggesting is that you don't necessarily outsource it to everybody else, okay? I'm not saying that other people don't know better, and I'm saying you'll need to trust your gut when you're being given somebody else's boundaries, even the government, even to anything out there, even spirituality. It's your life. And I'm not saying go out there, break the law. I'm not saying go out there and harm people. Okay, I say that repeatedly. I'm hoping one day people recognize my voice and they just trust that. I don't need to keep repeating that kind of stuff all the time. But the point that I'm saying here, the point that I'm making, is that structure is good. And I think freedom needs it too, so that there is a container for you to create within. Because without it, you just keep expanding infinitely. And then how do you really create anything from that? You don't. You just keep thinking. You know, externalize something. Give me something. You know, as another person. You know, you want your artwork or your creative passion or what pursuit to be something. Well, you can't just be stuck in your head thinking all the time. You just keep going and going and going and going. You know, following each thread that's interesting to you. I've struggled with that. Take a look at my early stuff on Medium, the articles that I was writing, okay? A lot of stuff all over the place that I love, but I needed to give you guys something that you guys can kind of keep returning to. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm starting to get in that funnel where there is some restraint on my creativity. I'm trying to get it through a single lens. Okay, that's all I got for this one for you guys. I hope that this has been helpful, valuable. And totally check out my Conscious Creators on Skool, SKOOL.com. So find me on there. I'm going to be teaching a lot of this stuff, helping creators become more conscious of their work, be more prideful, put more soul into their work, have passion in it again, especially if you've burned out or, you know, you don't know how to do it without, you know, getting stuck trying to, you know, monetize and all that kind of stuff. We've all been there. I've been there for a long time. And so I'm here to kind of help you guys find yourselves again. Remember who started and what you started for. So check that out if that sounds like something for you guys. Otherwise, catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for being here.